Hi, Danny.
All right. And we'll get started with the third step prayer there, Rob.
And I am Rob K. I'm a recovered alcoholic. And the third step prayer, which can be found on page 63 of your big book. I hope everybody's got your big book handy. God, I offer myself to thee, to build with me and do with me as thou wilt. Relieve me of the bondage of self, that I may better do thy will. Take away my difficulties, that victory over them may bear witness to those I would help of thy power, thy love, and thy way of life. I do thy will always.
All right. Thank you very much, Rob. Okay. We are talking a little bit about more, well, not a little bit, but a lot more about alcoholism. We'll be covering the two symptoms, the physical portion, which is the allergy, and the malady of the mind, which is the second symptom. We will be covering things in quite a bit of detail today. It'll be a lot of fun. So with that, I'm going to ask Rob. We'll go ahead and get started, and there we go.
Okay, and I want to welcome Suzanne, who just snuck in the room. Good to have you here. More about alcoholism, page 30, everybody. Most of us have been unwilling to admit we were real alcoholics. No person likes to think he is bodily and mentally different from his fellows. Therefore, it is not surprising that our drinking careers have been characterized by countless vain attempts to prove we could drink like other people. The idea that somehow, someday, he will control and enjoy his drinking is the great obsession of every abnormal drinker. The persistence of this illusion is astonishing. Many pursue it into the gates of insanity or death.
Yeah, so a couple of things here, but most of us, at least in the beginning, were just absolutely opposed and unwilling to admit that we were alcoholics. And I highlight this. I underlined real alcoholics, but the point I'm trying to make here is that a true alcoholic, not a heavy drinker that just happens to be binge drinking on a particular weekend or something, although that is a problem, is what we're talking about. We're talking about the person that cannot control their drinking, regardless of how hard they try. No matter how many times they try, they're often drinking, and they're drinking to excess and not stopping until either you've passed out or you've run out of alcohol. So that's one of the things I wanted to kind of highlight here in this. This is this idea that it's hard for us to come to terms with that, um, and admitting that we're not the same as our counterparts is something that I think that is a hard thing for people to admit. The other thing here I want to talk about too is the obsession that we talk about, the idea that somehow someday we will be able to control our drinking uh, and uh, and enjoy it is one of two obsessions that we have. This particular obsession is to drink like other normal people. That's number two. The first one is we just covered on page 23, which is the obsession of alcoholics is to stop drinking and to stay stopped under their own power. But we lack the ability to do either. So that's kind of an important distinction here with regard to what also contributes to being an alcoholic is this lack of control. Rob?
Yeah, how many times have we tried to control it? And when we control it, we just don't enjoy it whatsoever. We're miserable. But when, we just enjoy our drinking, we get so out of control, you know. Now, I for those that are new, and I thank you for being here, there's a lot of stuff that will be put up in the chat. And so I hope you have your chat open and get a chance to take a look at some of this stuff when you get a chance. And this is one thing. Athena's driving, so I'm gonna read this so that she can hear this because I don't want her driving and reading in the chat at the same time, because that's dangerous. Okay, and this is something from Ernie Kurtz's book called Not God. Every alcoholic's problem had first been, according to this insight, claiming godlike powers, especially that of control. But the alcoholic, at least, the message insists, is not in control, even of himself. And the first step towards recovery from alcoholism must be admission and acceptance of this fact that is so blatantly obvious to others, but so tenuously denied by the obsessive compulsive drinker. In other words, the alcoholic is not in control. Okay, it never has had control, but we try. They talk in the book about, switching from beer to wine, switching from vodka to gin, switching from, you know, uh, having one drink and then having a glass of water, you know, and then having another drink. It delays the process, but the thing is that we suffer from an allergy. Okay, and that allergy wants us, that once it's triggered by taking a drink into the system, okay, wants more. Our friend Bill from New Jersey always said, our brain wants its candy and will tell us anything in order for us to do it. And that is the problem in the mind. The mind tells us it's going to be different this time. Okay. You're not going to get drunk, you know, but then once the alcohol is taken into the system, okay, the body craves more. So we keep feeding it more, thinking that, what, as they say in the book many times, banging on the bar. Next time it'll be different. But this time I'm going to get really drunk. So that is what it's all about. Okay? The obsession that we will be able to control and enjoy our drinking. Welcome, Kickin. We are on page 30. Great to have you here. And same with you, Vishwa. We learned and here, this line right here, I have highlighted like crazy because it's the first step. We learned that we had to fully concede to our innermost selves that we were alcoholics. This is the first step in recovery. The delusion that we're like other people, or presently maybe, has to be smashed.
It certainly does, Rob. The idea here is that you've got to not admit to other people. That's somewhat easy to do. You've got to admit it to yourself. You have to believe it. You have to own up to it. You have to be completely 100% committed to the fact that you are actually alcoholic and that you have no control over alcohol whatever. So that is a big deal. It is the first step in recovery, and to be able to drink like others is got to be smashed. And just the idea here is that you've got to absolutely admit that you are alcoholic. Rob?
Yeah, and who does the smashing, Leo?
You, we, me.
Exactly. The alcoholic the person with the alcohol problem has to do the smashing. Okay, and that's what it's all about. Is until we admit to ourselves that we're powerless, that we can't do it on our own. We have to concede to our innermost self. I have to do that. Okay, this is the first step in recovery. Okay, that I can't drink like other people. I've tried everything in my power to do it, but I have lost a battle each and every time. Okay. And how do I know that? Because I look back on my drinking and I went, you know what? Every time I try it now. Remember, there was a time that I used to be able to go out, have 3 drinks, and quit for the night. Wow. Don't I wish I could do that now? But at some point in my drinking career, I passed that invisible line. When it was exactly, I really don't know. But I passed that invisible line. And now, anytime I take a drink into my body, it wants more. And I keep feeding it until I get either blackout drunk, okay, pass out, run out of money, or get thrown out. So I've had to concede to my innermost self that I am an alcoholic. I have smashed the idea that I can ever safely take a first drink. We alcoholics are men and women who have lost the ability to control our drinking. We know that no real alcoholic ever recovers control. All of us felt the times that we were regaining control, but at such intervals, usually brief, we inevitably followed by still less control, which led in time to pitiful and incomprehensible demoralization. We are convinced to a man that alcoholics of our type are in the grip of a progressive illness. Over any considerable period of time, we get worse, never better.
Yeah, it is absolutely true that we do get worse over time. Even if you're not drinking, your body is continuing to change, and its ability to metabolize is lessening, and that is causing us to not have that ability to control our drinking, and it gets to a point that it is even worse for us when we do drink, and no matter how long it's been, we never regain control of our drinking, and that is the big message here that we're trying to get across in this paragraph. And we know this; it's been proven time and time again. And no matter how convinced you might be that the fact that you've gone a month, a year, 10 years without drinking, it's not going to you're not going to be able to control it, at least not after a couple of 3 weeks. It's going to be right back where you were, and it's going to be worse than it was before. And that's going to be even more frustrating than it was, because one, you've actually stopped drinking. You've got there's a lot of things that work against you when you take a drink, and um, the idea is that you've got to start all over again, which is frustrating. The idea that you have to admit to yourself that you had no control, and the idea that it was going to be pleasure, there was going to be some pleasure with it, is also a misnomer as well. So altogether, it is less and less control as you go along. Rob?
Yeah. Well, on this page alone, control is mentioned 5 times, and in the last paragraph that I just read, it's mentioned 4 times. So I think Bill Wilson's trying to get through to us that control, we lack control. Why do we lack control? Well, they're going to start getting into it. It's why can I not stop? Why can I not do this? Why can I not do that? Why can I not control it? You know what? We try to control it as much as we can, and it never works. Okay, why? Because we're powerless over it. It's got us. We don't have it. So keep remembering that. We're at the bottom of page 30, everybody. We're like men who have lost their legs. They never grow new ones. Neither does there appear to be any kind of treatment which will make alcoholics of our kind like other men. We have tried every imaginable remedy. In some instances, there have been brief recovery, followed always by a still worse relapse. Physicians who are familiar with alcoholism agree there is no such thing as making a normal drinker out of an alcoholic. Science may one day accomplish this, but it is yet to do this.
Yep. It's and as there is a saying, it's once a pickle, always a pickle. That the idea here is that there is no imaginable remedy. It still isn't, even after all of these decades since this book was written. They still haven't come up with something that you can do or take that makes you a normal drinker at all. So it is, and another thing to emphasize here is that it's even worse the longer you go, the older you get, it just gets worse and worse and worse. Those relapses are never fun, and they get to be even less fun as you age and as time goes by. Rob?
Yep. And I put something in the chat and I'm gonna read it so that Athena doesn't stop and get into an accident. The AA program is designed for uncontrolled drinkers who sincerely desire permanent sobriety and are willing to go to any lengths to get it. Men or women interested in temporary sobriety or in controlling their drinking are not ready for this program. And that's from the Little Red Book, from which was done in 1946, and it was done by our buddy Pinto Pete's got a copy right there, and it was written by Ed Webster. Now, the thing is that if we are just trying to control or to just temporarily stop our drinking, that's not step one. Step one is smashing the idea that we can ever safely drink. If you have a sponsee that thinks that they can one day drink again or can control their drinking, tell them, you know what? I'm here when you're ready, when you have finally admitted to yourself that you can never safely take that first drink. But until that time, no, they have not done step one, and therefore they will go back to their solution. And what is their solution to anything that goes on in life? Take a drink. So remember, okay? And I can't say this enough. We learned that we had to fully concede to our innermost selves that we were alcoholics. This is the first step in recovery. The delusion that we're like other people, or presently maybe, has to be smashed. The alcoholic does the smashing. We can't do it for them. They have to do it themselves. And until they do it, there's nothing we can do because they're not ready. They think there's still hope that, you know, well, you know what? If I just go to the gym more often, I'll be able to drink like a normal person. You know, any inkling of that, they're not ready. But what we can do is plant the seed. Okay. Well, if you can, great. If you can do that, if you can control and enjoy your drinking, great. But if for some reason you can't, I'm here. I'm always here. I'm ready for you. Okay. So never, never cut them off completely, but be there when they are ready. Despite all we can say, many who are real alcoholics are not going to believe that they are in that class. By every form of self-deception and experimentation, they will try to prove themselves exceptions to the rule. Therefore, non-alcoholic. If anyone who is showing inability to control his drinking and can do the right about face and drink like a gentleman, our hats are off to him. Heaven knows we have tried hard enough and long enough to drink like other people.
Yeah, there's not much more to say on this one, Rob. The fact is that they're not going to admit it. They're not going to believe it. They're not going to want to say anything. They're not going to want to be honest with themselves. It is a frustrating place to be because no matter how hard they try, it's not going to happen. So the bottom line is that there's no way you're going to, as an alcoholic, drink like other people. Rob?
Yeah, and I just want to say something. A lot of people that come into the Fellowship of AA don't really understand what AA is all about. Why should they? Most people don't know anybody else that has been in AA before. When I came in, I didn't know anybody in AA. It turns out that I do know a few people that I've seen in different meetings, but when I was before I came in, I didn't think I knew anybody. I thought that when I came to AA, they would be able to teach me how to drink like a gentleman. They would be able to tell me some secret thing that I would be able to drink, but I wouldn't get drunk every time or be out of control every time I drank. So that was my thinking. So I came in thinking that, you know what, okay, they'll teach me how to drink, and then, I'll be here, I don't know how long it'll take, a couple of weeks maybe, and then, I will go on my way. Well, little did I realize, and this is the whole thing, it's a learning process. Okay. I didn't know I suffered from an allergy, the phenomenon of craving. I didn't know that my mind was obsessed. The obsession of the mind, malady of the mind, that, it was telling me that it would be okay to drink. I didn't realize that these things. I had to be taught them. I didn't realize that abstinence was my only cure. How do I do that? This is what it's all about. is learning. So don't be surprised if the person that's coming in doesn't understand anything.
Right.
So remember, we come to big book studies in order to learn the big book so that we can teach it to other people. So we can take them through the 12 steps so that they can have their spiritual awakening and the obsession of the mind or the malady of the mind, whatever you want to call it, is lifted. Okay. Hope that helps. Despite all we can say, many who are real alcoholics, they're not going to believe that they are in that class. But I've read that part, didn't I?
Yep.
Yeah, you know what? It was so important, I guess, that I should have, Here are some of the methods we have tried. I love this part. Drinking beer only, limiting the number of drinks, never drinking alone, never drinking in the morning, drinking only at home, never having it in the house, never drinking during business hours, drinking only at parties, switching from scotch to brandy, drinking only natural wines, agreeing to resign if ever drunk on the job, taking a trip, not taking a trip, swearing off forever, with and without a solemn oath, taking more physical exercise, reading inspirational books, going to health farms and sanitariums, accepting voluntary commitment to asylums. We could increase the list ad infinitum.
Yep, absolutely. And there are just an infinite, as it says here, a number of attempts in different ways, approaches that there is to try and control the drinking, try and change your behaviors, and it just doesn't work. None of them work. It's really got to be emphasized. None of them work. The fact is, as an alcoholic, a real alcoholic, you are in no control of your drinking, and therefore it is the allergy kicks in as soon as you take that first drink, and you don't stop, like I've said, until you've either passed out or you've run out of alcohol. And it is an incredibly frustrating and maddening place to be until you finally let loose and the struggle, let loose of the struggle, and then finally admit to yourself, in all honesty, that you are alcoholic. Rob?
Yeah, we've read earlier about people going, you know, in some instances there have been brief recovery, always followed by still relapse, and which reminds me of people going to rehab centers. Okay, they go to detox centers. They take the alcohol out of the alcoholic for a short period of time, but unless the change happens, we're going to keep doing the same thing. There's the analogy of going to the airport. Okay, I can go to the departure lounge of an airport, sit in the departure lounge. But unless I have a ticket, I'm not going anywhere. That's similar to an alcoholic. If we don't have a change going on in our life, we're going to keep doing what we keep doing. Why? Because that's all we know. People go to rehab. They talk about Bill Wilson went to rehab, okay, or to a treatment center, okay, the town's hospital. They took the alcohol out of him for 5 days, you know, tried to give him a little bit of information. Okay, fear sobered him up for a short period of time. Okay, self-knowledge. Oh, I have self-knowledge now. That'll do it. Okay, but it kept them sober for a very short period of time. Then Armistice Day. Okay, 1934. He was drunk again. Somebody offered him a drink and he just took it without even thinking. You know, so change has to happen. They talk in the book about us being selfish and self-centered. Okay, we only think about ourselves. What can I get from Pinto Pete today? Okay, oh, kicking. You got a couple of kroners. I hope that's the right. I don't know the money over in Sweden, but the thing is that I'm always out for myself. Okay, remember we're trying to get a spiritual awakening that Carl Jung tried to get with Roland Hazard. Put yourself in a religious organization and hope like hell that something happens, that you change. And that's what it's all about. Change. We can take the alcohol. Bill always uses the analogy. You can take the rum out of a fruit cake, but you still got a fruit cake. Okay, so you can take the alcohol out of the alcoholic, but for how long? Knowledge is the solution. Knowledge of the solution is not the solution, from our buddy Pete, and that how true it is. Bottom of page 31, everybody. We do not like to pronounce any individual as alcoholic, but you can quickly diagnose yourself. Step over to the nearest bar room and try some controlled drinking. Try to drink and stop abruptly. Try it more than once. It will not take long for you to decide. If you are honest with yourself about it, it may be worth a bad case of jitters if you get a full knowledge of your condition.
Yeah, and this trying to go to a bar room and control your drinking or just drink and stop abruptly over a period of time is known as the Marty Mann test. That's MARTI, MANN test. Her story is on page 200 of the big book. The idea here is that you were going to try and do some controlled drinking over a period of time and see if you were going to be able to do it. The fact is, as an alcoholic, you will find that you might be able to do it a few times, but before long, you're going to be right back to where you were. And like we've already said, too, is that the likelihood is that you're going to be worse off than you were before. And it doesn't take long. So again, you've got to be honest with yourself to admit that you are alcoholic and that you do have no control over alcohol, whatever. Rob?
Yep. Page 32, everybody. Though there is no way of proving it, we believe that early in our drinking careers, most of us could have stopped drinking. But the difficulty is that few alcoholics have enough desire to stop while there is yet time. We have heard of a few instances where people who showed definite signs of alcoholism were able to stop for a long period because of an overpowering desire to do so. Here is one. This is a beautiful story. So well put together. A man of 30 was doing a great deal of spree drinking. He was very nervous in the morning after these bouts and quieted himself with more liquor. He was ambitious to succeed in business, but saw that he would get nowhere if he drank at all. Once he started, he had no control whatever. He made up his mind that until he had been successful in business and had retired, he would not touch another drop. An exceptional man, he remained bone dry for 25 years and retired at the age of 55 after a successful and happy business career. Then he fell victim to a belief which practically every alcoholic has, that his long period of sobriety and self-discipline had qualified him to drink as other men. Out came his carpet slippers and a bottle. In 2 months he was in a hospital, puzzled and humiliated. He tried to regulate his drinking for a while, making several trips to the hospital meantime. Then, gathering all his forces, he attempted to stop altogether and found he could not. Every means of solving his problem, which money could buy, was at his disposal. Every attempt failed. Though a robust man at retirement, he went to pieces quickly and was dead within 4 years.
Yeah, it is a tragic story. It is something that we see that people do, in fact, try and stop for a period of time. It does get worse over time, so that's part of this man's problem, and he obviously was in fact alcoholic and continued to be so, and in the end, it got the best of him, and it killed him. So we do see this from time to time, that the alcoholism gets the best of somebody, and they just aren't able to control it, no matter what they do, no matter what they try, and soon they're dead. So it's a very serious problem there. Um, no matter how hard you try, that's a great way to really define your own alcoholism, is no matter how hard you try, you have no control. So, Rob?
This story, he was 55 when he retired, and within 4 years, he was dead, 59 years of age. The big lie is that, my not having had a drink for a long period of time allows me to drink like regular people. I'm not really an alcoholic. And this is the thing, is that our brain starts talking to us and telling us, you know what? You haven't had a drink in a month. You're not a real alcoholic. You can have a drink. You've made you've made a big deal out of something that isn't a big deal. Go ahead and have a drink. Prove. Let me prove to Sandra that I'm not a real alcoholic, that I can drink like a regular guy. You know, the big lie. You know, follow it into the gates of insanity or death. You know, just to prove something. You know, because our brain wants its candy. It will tell us anything to get it. This case contains a powerful lesson. Most of us have believed that if we remained sober for a long stretch, we could therefore drink like normal men. But here is a man who, at 55 years, found he was just where he left off at 30. We have seen the truth demonstrated again and again. Quote, once an alcoholic, always an alcoholic, close quote. Commencing to drink after a period of sobriety, we are in a short time as bad as ever. If we are planning to stop drinking, there must be no reservation of any kind, nor any lurking notion that someday we will be immune to alcohol.
Absolutely. And that is the message here that we're trying to drive home. Once an alcoholic, always an alcoholic. And if you're planning to stop drinking, there must be no reservation of any kind. Nothing lurking in the background. I used to get close to admitting to it, but always trying to finagle a way to figure out how to hide my drinking and do it without others knowing about it, and trying to really essentially lie to myself that I could admit to others that I was alcoholic, but I truly didn't believe it at the time and thought that I could control it. But there should be no reservation of any kind nor any lurking notion, nothing, no inkling whatsoever that you will be immune to alcohol. You have to realize that there is just no control whatsoever. Rob?
Yeah, there's a great quote in the 12 and 12 on page 73 that I put it in the chat, but I'll read it out. When we have finally admitted without reservation that we're powerless over alcohol, we're apt to breathe a great sigh of relief, saying, well, thank God that's over. I'll never have to go through that again. Smashing the idea that we can drink like other people. You know, you know what? God loved the normal drinkers. You know what? They can drink, and that's great for them. I have to tell myself I can't do that. Okay, I have to concede to my innermost selves that I'm an alcoholic, that I cannot take any alcohol whatsoever into my system. And until I do that, I'm going to try to prove that I can drink like a normal person. Okay, remember the first step in that's the first step is conceding to my innermost self. I can't do it. Young people may be encouraged by this man's experience to think that they can stop as he did on their own willpower. We doubt if many of them can do it, because none will really want to stop, and hardly one of them, because of the peculiar mental twist already acquired, will find he can win out. Several of our crowd, men of 30 or less, have been drinking only a few years, but they found themselves as helpless as those who had been drinking 20 years.
Yeah, that's a unique group. I think, and I've said this before, but it's the young person is really hard pressed to admit to that they are alcoholic. There's an earnest kind of desire, I guess, to be in a place where you think in your 20s, oh, I'm just going through a phase, I can go grow out of it. I've got most of my life left. How am I going to survive without drinking? Um, Surely there's some way that I can control it. And the fact is that they're just not going to be able to. Now, having said that, it is tough to convince a young person that they're alcoholic to begin with, in fact, because they haven't had that many consequences or experiences. I mean, in most cases, they've had less consequences and experiences than an older drinker might have. They haven't got enough built up to work on their convincing. that they are in fact alcoholics. So it is a group that is tough to break through. But one of the things that's really nice about learning that you're alcoholic, admitting that you're alcoholic, and being convinced that you're alcoholic at an early age is that you have the rest of your life to live without alcohol, and therefore there is a certain amount of um, um, you probably will be healthier because of it, because alcohol does definitely work on your health over time. So I always think about this, the young person trying to be convinced, trying to convince a young person that they're alcoholic. Not that you're trying to necessarily convince them, but you're trying to get them there so that they can admit it to themselves. But the bottom line is that it is a tough crowd. But the um, they are there, and it is unfortunate for people to try and live, for the next 20 or 30 years as alcoholics and drinking to excess. I can only imagine how bad that is. Um, I certainly showed signs of alcoholism back even when I was a teenager and a young adult, but due to circumstances that I put myself into, I easily tried to convince myself that there was no way I was alcoholic. It was just that I was just like everybody else around me because I had surrounded myself with people that were more likely than not to be alcoholic. And it just seemed normal to me. So, anyway, Rob?
Yeah, we're at near the bottom of page 33. To be gravely affected, one does not necessarily have to drink a long time, nor take the quantities some of us have. This is particularly true of women. Potential female alcoholics often turn into the real thing and are gone beyond recall in a few years. Certain drinkers who would be greatly insulted if called alcoholics are astonished at their inability to stop. We who are familiar with the symptom see a large number of potential alcoholics among young people everywhere, but try and get them to see it. And there's an asterisk, so I'll read the bottom part. True, when this book was first published, but in 2014, US Canada membership survey showed about 12% of AAs are 30 and under.
Yeah. And I would surmise that it's probably at least that, but still, it's not a large population within the group of AAs, alcoholics, and so it is, but it is a fact. You can be alcoholic even at a young age. It's not age dependent. It's behavior dependent. So, Rob?
Leo, when I first came into the fellowship of AA, I didn't think women were alcoholics. The first meeting I went to, I was shocked. Naive young boy from a little suburb of Toronto, walking into his first AA meeting. And who was the speaker that night? Is a beautiful young lady, speaking about herself being an alcoholic. Wow, was I shocked. Why did I not think women were alcoholics? I don't really know, but for some reason, anybody I thought of as an alcoholic was a male. And so, but here in this book, and then when I read on page 33, this is particularly true of women. Potential female alcoholics often turn into a real thing and are gone beyond recall in a few years. Wow. You learn something new all the time, and as I say, I was shocked. Oh well. As we look back, we feel we had gone on drinking many years beyond the point where we could quit on our own willpower. If anyone questions whether he has entered this dangerous area, let him try leaving liquor alone for 1 year. If he is a real alcoholic and very far advanced, there is scant or poor chance of success. In the early days of our drinking, we occasionally remain sober for a year or more, becoming serious drinkers again later. Though you may be able to stop for a considerable period, you may yet be a potential alcoholic. We think few to whom this book will appeal and stay dry anything like a year. Some will be drunk the day after making their resolutions, most of them within a few weeks.
Absolutely. And this is really the only reference that this book makes to waiting a year for anything whatsoever. And what they're basically doing is trying to say is stopping for a year is near impossible. And even if you do, if you are truly an alcoholic, you're going to find that you're going to be right back where you left off when you start drinking again. There is little or no chance of success at all. And again, we're talking about the real alcoholic and uh, not somebody that is a moderate and or heavy drinker that can stop with sufficient emphasis on a reason why. So the no matter how long you stop drinking, going back to it, and that is something that you have to convince yourself of again as well. Is that as an alcoholic, going back to it is going to spell doom. So, Rob?
Yeah, here's the big lie again. Then he fell victim to a belief which practically every alcoholic had, that his long period of sobriety and self-discipline has qualified him to drink as other men. I would quit for a couple of days and then I would reward myself, you know, crazy. But, sometimes it might be a week, okay, maybe little bit longer. But as time went by, it would get shorter and shorter all the time. Oh, you haven't had a drink in a couple of hours. Have a drink, and so, you know, it's craziness. The things that we try. Normal drinkers think we're nuts. And why? Because they can quit anytime they want. Oh, I've had enough. I feel a little queasy, or you know what? I feel a little dizzy. I feel a little, you know, off kilter. I don't like that feeling. And they stop. We're just getting started, and because we enjoy the effect that alcohol produces. We really do. And our body is craving more. For those who are unable to drink moderately, to pick and choose when they want to drink, the question is how to stop altogether. We're assuming, of course, that the reader desires to stop. Whether such a person can quit upon a non spiritual basis depends upon the extent to which he has already lost the power to choose whether he will drink or not. Many of us felt we had plenty of character. There was a tremendous urge to cease forever, yet we found it impossible. This is the baffling feature of alcoholism as we know it, its utter inability to leave it alone, no matter how great the necessity or the wish.
Yeah, no matter how great the necessity or the wish, you still find yourself drinking and drinking to excess, and it is a problem. We again, this is well, not again, but this is really trying to emphasize another thing. It's not just admitting to yourself that you're an alcoholic, but it is a strong and honest desire to stop. That means that you really do want to stop, and we're assuming that um, and it is something that is a requirement to try and recover. The other part of this is that loss of power to choose. Again, we're making a reference to that. That would be part of the malady here. I try to not drink, but I can't stay away from that first drink. So the baffling feature, again, reference to the malady. We should know it, utterly inability to leave it alone, no matter how great the necessity or the wish. It is maddening, to say the least, to be in that place. So, Rob?
Yep. Baffled, baffling, baffle is used 9 times in the book. I put them in, once his malady has a real hold, they are a baffled lot. More baffling still, he could give himself no satisfactory explanation for his fall. Once confused and baffled by the seeming futility of existence, they showed the underlying reasons why they were making heavy going of life. I could go on, but I won't. But Bill uses that word a few times in the book. But the most important thing here is this utter inability to leave it alone, no matter how great the necessity or the way, no matter how much I want to not drink. I can't leave it alone. Why? Remember, people come into the AA all the time, the fellowship. I don't know why I keep doing it over and over again. Why? Can you help me? Remember, that's the first step too, is the humility to say, I don't know what to do. Everything I've tried has blown up in my face and I haven't been able to do it. What do you have? What can you tell me? That is where we use our experience, strength, and hope. Okay. What did you do? Okay. That's what we have. That's why one alcoholic can get through to another alcoholic. You've been able to beat it. What did you do? Was it just coming to meetings? Was it the 12 steps? Did you do crystals? Like amethyst, and pray to them or hold them over your head? Pyramid power? What did you do? Remember, this book, there is a solution. They knew about one solution. By doing these 12 steps, they came up with a spiritual experience or a spiritual awakening, which changed them 180 degrees. They started thinking about other people and what they can do for them. How then shall we help our readers determine to their own satisfaction whether they are one of us? The experiment of quitting for a period of time will be helpful, but we think we can render an even greater service to alcoholic sufferers and perhaps the medical fraternity. So we shall describe some of the mental states that precede a relapse into drinking. For obviously, this is the crux of the problem.
Yes, the crux of the problem. So we shall describe some of the mental states. They're going to do so. They're asking the question, how are we going to help our readers determine to their own satisfaction whether they are one of us, whether they are alcoholic or not. This Marty Mann test, the experiment of quitting for a period of time, and may be helpful. And we think that, or controlling it as well, may render an even greater service to alcohol sufferers by describing some of these mental twists. So, Rod?
Yeah, and crux is the most important part, the innermost significance. Okay, so that the most, innermost significance part of the problem. Okay, they're going to talk about the mind. Okay, because that's where the problem centers. Okay, if we don't take any alcohol into our system whatsoever, we'll be fine. Why? Because the allergy won't be triggered, and that's it. Remember, the idea that the obsession of the mind, its only job is to get us to take that first drink, and then our bodies will take over. You know, so the obsession does its job, gets you to take that first drink, the allergy kicks in, and then your body craves more. So the obsession, or as Leo says, the malady, you know, gets you to take that first drink, and then we're off to the races. So obviously, if we can stop the mind from making us take that first drink, we'll be okay. Because we don't want it anyways. We really, in our hearts of hearts, we don't want it. So what sort of thinking dominates an alcoholic who repeats time after time the desperate experiment of the first drink? Friends who have reasoned with him after a spree, which has brought him to the point of divorce or bankruptcy, are mystified when he walks directly into a saloon. Why does he? Of what is he thinking?
Yeah, that is the one of the problems with drinkers is that the people around them that are normal drinkers don't understand. Even alcoholics can make good decisions throughout life, whether it be for work, for family, for individual types of thoughts and ideas that you have. You can be quite successful in that regard. They don't understand, and a lot of times the alcoholic doesn't even understand how they just don't have that same kind of decision-making control over their drinking. And it really is frustrating to people from the outside looking in. And That also is part of the problem as well, is that they get frustrated, they get mad, they get angry, they get resentful, and there in turn, the alcoholic does as well. So, Rob?
Leo, I didn't understand why I was doing it. I really had no idea why. So if somebody's asking me, why, why did you do that? I had no idea. So yes, I'm frustrated by what I'm doing. Okay, because I don't have an answer for it. So people asking me, why are you doing it? All I'm going to do, before I quit drinking, okay, before I came into A, I was frustrated with life. Okay, because I didn't know why I was doing it. So if somebody was going to question me, Rob, do you really need another drink? Yeah, I do. Okay, leave me alone. I isolated myself so that I didn't have people asking me these questions. Okay, so that, they talk about in the book that Bill Wilson became a lone wolf. Why? Because other people didn't want to be around him when he was drunk. Okay, and because he was always excessively drunk. Okay, so we end up isolating by being on our own, you know, and we don't understand why. As I told you, when I first came into the fellowship, I didn't know about the allergy, the phenomenon of craving, the obsession of the mind. I didn't know any of these things. So when somebody asks me why I'm doing it, I'm going to come up with a whole bunch of different excuses that don't make any sense to a normal drinker. Well, it was a rainy day. Oh, it was a sunny day. Oh, it was Pete's birthday last week. So I was celebrating Pete's birthday. You know, crazy things. But, that don't make any sense. But you know what? Hopefully they'll keep the other person off my back and let me be. Leo, the next story is so great that I would like to leave it for next week. And can we bring Bill in with his?
Absolutely.
He gets a few more minutes, hopefully, with his wisdom. Bill.
Yeah, hi, this is Bill, alcoholic from New Jersey. Thanks a lot, guys. Good job today. This chapter here, more on alcoholism, this is one of the chapters that most people like this chapter the best. People that I've dealt with, most of the people told me this is the chapter that they like the best. It's got the most information in it. I guess they can identify with it. They like these little stories of the people that are going to be in here that went back out drinking and that kind of stuff. And it starts off right at the beginning, and it says, most of us have been unwilling to admit we were real alcoholics. This is talking about that mental part, that denial. We don't want to admit that we're alcoholics. We're the last ones to admit it. And in the second paragraph on the first page, it says, we learned that we had to fully concede to our innermost selves that we were alcoholics. This is the first step in recovery. That's known as the first step question. You turn that into a question. Do you fully concede to your innermost self that you're alcoholic? And once you answer that question, according to this book, that's what you have to do in order to do step one. And it's telling you right here, this is the first step in recovery. You have to admit it to yourself. That's what step one says. We admitted we were powerless over alcohol, that our lives had become unmanageable. Until you admit that, you haven't done step one. And the book can't do it for you. You have to do it yourself. Your sponsor, the people that you in your network, they can all tell you that they think you're an alcoholic because of the stories that you told them, the way you drank and things that happened to you. You have to do it for yourself. And you're not going to smash the delusion until you do step one. Step one is what helps us smash that delusion. If you could just smash it by yourself, we wouldn't need step one. Step one, the truth in step one is what helps you to smash that delusion that you can drink like other people. And he also tells us on the bottom of page 30 that over any considerable period of time, we get worse, never better. In other words, this disease is a progressive disease. It keeps on getting worse. Even if you're not drinking, your alcoholism is still advancing. If you talk to anybody that was sober for any long period of time and they went back out and drank, they'll always tell you it got worse. I've never heard anybody come back to AA and say it got better. It doesn't get better. It gets worse because you're getting older and your body is getting older and you're starting to metabolize stuff slower and the chemical reactions don't take place like they did when you were younger. So when you put alcohol in you, it just affects more. It affects you more or stronger or harder or whatever you want to call it. And then he talks about on page 31, down by the bottom of the page, it says, we do not like to pronounce any individual as alcoholic. This is known as the Marty Mann test. It says, step over to the nearest bar room and try some controlled drinking. I wouldn't tell anybody to try any controlled drinking. I know people that went out and drank and they never came back. It was the last thing they did. And I wouldn't want that on my conscience. So I wouldn't tell anybody to go back out and drink. Most of us, over the course of our alcoholic career or whatever you call it, we try to control our drinking, and it doesn't work for an alcoholic. You can't control your drinking because if you're an alcoholic, you have the physical part, and once you take a drink, that allergy kicks in, and we develop the phenomenon of cravings, and we can't stop. And that's what this is designed to show you. This test was designed to show the phenomenon of cravings. This is the only way that they could determine whether somebody was an alcoholic. That's the only test they had. The only thing they could even try. They don't even have a legitimate test today. You can't go to a doctor and have them take blood or something and come up with and send it to a lab and come back and say, oh, you got alcoholic blood. No, the only way you can determine if you're an alcoholic is by your behavior after you take a drink. And if you can't control your drinking, that's obviously the main symptom of alcoholism. It talks about that in the doctor's opinion. The doctor says we have one symptom in common. All you have to have is that one symptom. You don't have to have more than one symptom. If you take a drink and you can't control it, you're one of us, according to Dr. Silkworth. And he was the medical expert on alcoholism at the time. Then it talks about this man of 30. They put this little story in here. This guy was drinking, and every time he drank, he had no control, whatever. So he had the physical part. He was definitely one of us. But he didn't have the mental part yet. You don't have to have both symptoms or more than one symptom in order to be an alcoholic. All you have to have is one symptom, and you're considered an alcoholic. And he had the physical part, and he was able to stop because he had his willpower, his determination, his whatever. And he was an exceptional man. This may be the exception to the rule, whatever. And he stopped drinking for 25 years. And then he decided to drink again. And when he started drinking again, it was right where he left off, or he was even worse. And he wound up drinking himself to death. And he had money and whatever he had because he was a success in business. And that can't fix us. Well, once you go cross that line and you try to stop, it's not going to work. And that's what happened for this guy. And that's pretty basically what this is talking about. It's trying to give us some different indications or whatever on what alcoholism does to people and how it works for us. And then he talked about on page 34, this is a second test that they came up with. Let him try leaving liquor alone for 1 year. And that's designed to show you the mental part. A normal person, if they don't have a drink for a year, they don't even think about it at all. If an alcoholic doesn't have a drink for a year, we're walking around every day saying, oh, how many more days are left of this year? Let me keep marking them off on the calendar. When's this year going to be over? When can I start drinking again? That's to show you the mental part. That something in your mind keeps telling you, I want to drink, I want to drink, I need a drink, give me a drink. So he's got two tests in here. This Marty Mann test that shows you the physical part, and then try to leave the liquor alone for a year. That shows you the mental part. And then he says right after that, most of us will be drunk a day or two after that, after we try that, because we can't defeat our mental stuff. You can't defeat self with self. You can't beat your self-will with your own self-will. It doesn't work like that. We need some kind of spiritual program in order to get through this. And then he talks about the baffling feature of alcoholism as we know it, the utter inability to leave it alone, no matter how great the necessity or wish. No matter how much we don't want to drink, if you are an alcoholic, you are not going to have the ability to leave it alone. That's the baffling feature. Baffling means confusing. That's what's confusing about alcoholism. That even though we don't want to drink, we never want to drink, we're not going to drink again, we're done with this stuff, we can't leave it alone no matter how much we try. That's the mental part. That's the mind. The mental part kicks in, something in our brain short circuits, and it makes us drink against our will. So Bill's giving us like an introduction here or an overview of what happens when you're an alcoholic. And then he's going to go into a few little stories after this. And pretty much that's all I got on that. But thanks for letting me share.
Thank you so much, Bill.
Okay, we'll close out with the serenity prayer. Rob, thank you, sir.
We will. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and wisdom to know the difference.